Hello, welcome to Life Talk. I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and lurking nearby are my trusty sidekick, Renee Hobbs, and her unindicted co-conspirator, Destiny Hernan de la Rosa. Hello, Destiny. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
Before we get started, I want to update people on something that we introduced last month, which was the new Intel operations training that we're going to be doing here, teaching people how to surveil the abortion industry, basically, and
Right.
do infiltration.
Spy camp, which is
Spy
not what
camp.
you're going to call it.
That's
but
not what we're calling it.
That's what I'm going to call it.
That's what you're
Spy
going to call
camp.
it. Okay, well, thank you for that. But anyway, we've scheduled the first one for February 23rd and 24th.
Yes.
Everybody we've talked to about it is really pumped. I think we're gonna limit the class size. We were going to limit it to 18. Now we're down to 12.
Yeah.
So a maximum of 12.
Right.
It probably be less than that per event. We're going to try to do one a month.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be good.
it's going to be real good. And we're writing the syllabus for it, and you and I have been working on the materials, and it's going to be really, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah. The people that come are going to get a lot out of it. They're going to learn how to go into the abortion industry and get what they need.
You know, and the thing that we need to understand, and I think I talked about this before, every piece of information that the pro-life movement needs to defeat the abortion industry is inside the abortion industry. Yeah. There's nothing we need to know that they don't already know.
That's right.
We got two ways we can approach this. We can either wait and just be patient and wait for this information to come out on its own, or we can go in and get it. That's our two options.
Right.
The unborn cannot afford for us to be patient.
That's right.
They're dying at the rate of 3,000 a day. Our patience is their death sentence. And so this is the main reason that I decided we need to move this to the next level and not just depend on a few people like Life Dynamics or Lila Rose or whoever, just a few individuals around the country doing this. We need to get a whole army of people out there. And
Agreed.
that's why we're doing this, and I think it's going to be really good.
Would you like me to teach a class on how to wear all black? Because I feel like spies should know how to do that.
You know what they should.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need to do
But
that.
I can do that.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
that'd be your contribution
I'll
to
do
the
it.
deal. All right.
I'll do it.
No, we'll pass on that. But we do want you to be at the first one.
Yeah, I want to learn how to be a spy.
Yeah.
I would totally love that.
You're going to be at the first one, and we've already got the most notable will be Father Frank. When we were told Father Frank about this project, his first thing was, obviously, you're going to save a seat for me at the first event. So he's
And
He's
what
looking
color
forward
does he
to it.
wear all the time? I'm just throwing that out there. We know
So y'all
a little
could
thing
teach
or
a
two
class
about
together,
spies.
right?
right. Yeah, he knows how to wear black. I think that your average Catholic priest is aware of how do you wear black. He doesn't need you to teach him.
Yeah.
Right. I would think it really makes getting dressed in the morning real easy.
Oh,
You
sure.
put on the
Right.
same thing you wore yesterday.
That's right. Nothing to it.
Anyway, we got a lot of bizarre stuff to talk about. We keep saying how whacked out these people are, and we have a website that I think everybody needs to be looking at constantly, and you update it when we get new materials, is the peopleofchoice.com website. So people get a feel for what kind of people we're going up against. These are not just good, decent people that we have a disagreement with. That's not what this is about at all. You go on that website, you see exactly what you and I, what we all deal with on a daily basis. One of these whack jobs is a guy named Richard Dawkins. We've talked about him before. And he's this so-called evolutionary biologist and atheist. And he's now saying that if you refuse to have sex with somebody, that is the same as an abortion. Have you heard this?
How many mushrooms did he do as a child?
I don't know. All those drugs he took back in the 60s must be repeating on him or something. Quote, "How dare you refuse to have sex? Don't you realize that you may be depriving a baby of its life? Murderer," unquote. So,
What do you say?
I know. Some of this stuff is so idiotic.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're going to call yourself like a scientist or a biologist, but not even understand the difference between single-celled organisms, and there is a difference between a sperm, because that's one of the more vulgar sayings that you hear a lot is about it's a vulgar saying about sperm.
Yes.
And anytime that's wasted, then that's the same thing as an
killing.
abortion.
Right.
No. Do you know science? Do you know how things work? Like
Right.
conception's a completely new, unique
Well, apparently
creature.
this guy doesn't know science, and
He just wants attention.
some people on Twitter ask him when he thinks life actually begins. Listen to this answer. Quote, "It doesn't begin. That's the whole point. Life doesn't begin. It just It just is.
That's what I was telling my husband last night. Life doesn't begin at conception or 2, 5, 15, 20, 50, 60. It never begins. I don't know who we are.
It's just unbelievable. And he had made the argument. I think this is where we talked about him the last time. He had made the argument some time ago when the issue was abortions of children with Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. He said it was immoral to bring a child into the world with Down syndrome. Do you have any clue how completely void this man's soul is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to have an abortion and start over.
And just, yeah, that was his argument.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Have an abortion and just start over with another one.
Yeah.
This man is unbelievable. But I'm telling you something, he's not that far afield from the mainstream pro-choice community. He is not far afield at all.
But again, it's one of those things where, we're all believers, so we don't maybe necessarily know a lot of the secular reasons against abortion, but you have groups like Secular Pro-Life that will explain to you the atheistic argument against it, that this is just a very human thing, and it's not even necessarily something that you have to believe in God to understand science. And if you claim to be a scientist, yet you deny science
right.
and use it as your argument for abortion. I remember the Down syndrome one really bothering me because, again, we should all hope to have children as happy as children with Down syndrome. They are the most joy-filled, loving, happy children, and they live their lives that way. So to say that, it's unmerciful to bring them into the world, on the contrary.
Right. You meet parents of Down syndrome children, and they say, I couldn't imagine our life without this child. Couldn't even begin to imagine it. And if the pro-choice community takes issue with me saying this guy is mainstream pro-choice, then come out and condemn him. Come out and say that no, this is outrageous for this. But they don't ever do that because he is just saying what they all believe.
Right.
They do believe it's immoral to bring a Down syndrome child into the world. But the fact is, the Down syndrome child is already in the world.
Yeah.
The question is, are you going to allow that child to live and take care of him, or are you going to kill him?
Right.
That's the only distinction here. But the child is already in the world. But when you hear these so-called pseudo-intellectuals like Dawkins, and there's a lot of them on the pro-abortion side, say these idiotic things like this, it goes to that statement from 1984, the book 1984. He was talking about how in future years, he said, some things will be so absurd and so idiotic that only intellectuals will believe them. And you see that, in things like this. But anyway, I got an email from Joe Scheidler from Pro-Life Action League in Chicago, and they were doing an event there. A woman came out of the conference where the Pro-Life Action League was picketing and knelt down on the sidewalk right next to Joe, who was showing a graphic sign of an aborted baby. And I guess he assumed when she came and sat down there that she was pro-life and was going to pray because she wanted to pray. Her prayer was, Dear Heavenly Father, I want to express the gratitude and humility that I feel as an abortionist. This woman claims to be a doctor that was at this convention there. And she goes into this long, you can go online and see it. It's, again, these people are whacked, totally whacked out. Speaking of that, another one, this little sweetheart, Jex Blackmore, and she's with the Detroit chapter of the Satanic Temple. And she has got a website on her abortion that she had.
On Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
On Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
She says, quote, something took hold of my abdomen. This is after she began this abortion. And it began to wring out. I woke up covered in sweat and blurry-eyed. I vomited. I was then taken over by electric resonance throbbing. I didn't feel prepared. I expected waves of pain, but this was relentless. And then she said she felt something drop. And that was her baby.
And do you know what? 3 times in that article, she says that she didn't look. She
Right.
didn't want to look.
I didn't want to
Why
look.
is that?
Why wouldn't you
Why
want to look?
wouldn't? Yeah.
If it's no big deal, why wouldn't
Right.
you want to look at it?
Right. Exactly.
And it's because she knows.
Yeah.
I don't care how this woman is a member of the Satanic Temple and all this. I don't care how pro-abortion she is, how godless she is, what a moral degenerate she is. Every woman is born knowing. The moment that she is conceived, she is born with the maternal instinct.
That's right.
And you can try to take it away, you can
Right.
try to tamp it down.
And say that women are incubators and whatever else that they say.
Right, you can come up with all this nonsense, but it's ingrained in you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she says, I won't look.
Did she go to an abortionist to
Yeah,
receive this?
yeah.
Just the chemical, the RU-486.
RU-46.
Yeah.
That sounds horrifying, though, what they sent her home to deal with on her own, even. The fact that this
That's
is
what they
something
always
where
do.
you're sweating and blurry vision and stuff, and I mean, losing
what they
blood,
always do.
obviously, and everything else, yet that's something we expect women to do.
But that's what they always do, and we've talked about that on this show. That we've got quotes from them saying this was the goal of RU-46.
When you read that, honestly, I thought maybe it was a self-induced one that it was infected or something.
No, I've always said that if you take two women who have abortions, or two groups of women who have abortions, the ones who regret it later and who go through the grieving process for their baby, those are the ones who are mentally healthy.
Yeah.
The women like this are the ones who are mentally unhealthy. There was another woman that's on the Silent No More website, and just to show you the juxtaposition here, her name is Doreen from New York, and she had a similar experience. She had RU-486, went home, was taking a shower. She too felt something plop out while she was standing in the shower, and she looked down and there was the arm of her baby in the shower. And she talked about she couldn't pick it up. She didn't know what to do. She said she thought she was in the shower for about an hour. She didn't know what to do. And finally, she took the drain off the shower and used it to scrape the baby's arm down into the drain. And
Yeah, and she was torn up, and now she's speaking out about it,
Right.
which is good.
but the fact is, she looked.
That's right.
That's why she could deal with it and reconcile.
Right.
This other girl wouldn't look because she knew exactly what was going to happen if she looked. She was going to have the reaction that this girl had. No matter what she wants to claim now, no matter how comfortable she says she was with this and puts it on the internet and talks about how great an experience it was, she didn't want to look because she'd have the same reaction as this other lady.
I wonder if Jex's abortion was planned, if the whole pregnancy abortion was planned so she could do it on Thanksgiving Day, if that's how the Satanic worshipers,
I don't know.
they work. That's when we had that interview with,
Right. I can't remember his name. Yeah, and we've had experiences here with these people that are in
Right.
Satanic cults, and they talk about
Right.
getting pregnant on purpose to have babies to abort.
right,
Who knows?
who knows?
Anything's possible. You know, I think that we have seen recently that this battle is we're becoming more and more separate from the pro-aborts. And we've always been separated from them, obviously. But the American people now, as I say in Siege, they're being forced to put on a uniform. You either put on the pro-abortion uniform or you put on the pro-life uniform. They're being forced into that by all the things that are happening. And the media, I mean, they've always been pro-abortion, and they've always been just, I've said it, I wrote it in a book in 1988. The American media is a joke. It's just a bad joke. It's not funny. But these people are a joke. Journalism died, it doesn't exist in America anymore. But they're getting worse. As the abortion battle is being won more and more by the pro-life side, the media is getting to panic more, and they're throwing their weight even more behind them. Anyway, there was an article in One News Now by a man named Bill Bumpus, and one thing he brings up is how clever the pro-aborts were. And let's just use Planned Parenthood, for example. They give out media awards every year. And so you get this award for being the most sympathetic to their cause, and you're the best journalist. Well, that creates loyalty on the part of the so-called journalist, the person in the media, toward the abortion industry. It was a very clever strategy.
Right.
And the pro-life movement never did anything. Of course, there's a less number of people to choose from than there are if you're a pro-abort.
Right.
But I think about, you see this here just in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It goes on everywhere. But Planned Parenthood has this big fundraiser every year in Dallas, and they give out a Media Person of the Year award. And we have Channel 8 in Dallas, which is the ABC affiliate for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And their people are, I mean, they're all pro-abort. ABC, CBS, NBC, all of them are raging pro-aborts. But Channel 8, ABC is the worst of the bunch. And one of their anchor people is a woman named Gloria Campos.
She MCs the awards
She
every
MCs
year.
this event
Yeah.
every year. And then she gives the award to somebody else in the media, the local media. And like a couple of years ago, they gave it to a girl named Janet St. James, who's a reporter, works on the same station as Gloria Campos does. And, you know, this is an incestuous relationship. And the question is, why doesn't the management of Channel 8 go to these people and say, look, you can't be hosting this thing,
Right.
and you can't be showing up receiving an award for Media Person of the Year from Planned Parenthood when this is a highly political organization and we're covering them on a regular basis, the things that they do, you can't be out there doing that. And I'll guarantee you that, let's just say we had a Life Dynamics or Texas Right to Life or whatever, had an annual convention where we gave out a media deal. We would not be able to get anybody to come on there and accept that because they know that's what would happen at the station they work for. But Planned Parenthood can do that and get away with it. Now, do you think for one moment something happens with Planned Parenthood in Dallas-Fort Worth, and Gloria Campos is going to be the anchor on the news that night, and Janet St. James is going to be reporting on it? What do you take a guess as to what you think?
Well, I mean, we've seen what they do. The way that they report on it is very sympathetic. It's incredibly biased. You know, it's always the abortion proponents are out in force, and they show, like, they pick the one crazy person who's at the particular rally, and of course they blow them up and show this one person being nuts. They don't show the compassionate people who are helping women every day on the sidewalk and actually like aiding and assisting in the community because they want to vilify us. You
know, we used to have the March for Life in Dallas when Texans United for Life used to sponsor that every year, and they still do. But anyway, they would do that very thing. They would show up there, and if you had one kind of wild-eyed, crazy-haired looking person, that's the person they'd put. Here's the typical pro-lifer.
We have, for the last 5 years, played a game, Kristen, who runs New Wave Feminist with me, where we try to pick out who's going to be the front page of the Dallas Morning News. And I think 4 out of the 5 years, we've picked the right one.
Really?
Sure.
And it was one year, it was actually a neighbor of mine who was a male cheerleader. And so his daughter was fussy. They were at the back of the line, and he was taking his daughter and just like hoisting her up. And I guess they decided to take a picture of him hoisting his daughter, like this Mufasa type thing happening. Like we were out there worshiping babies, and I was like, she was fussy, and he was playing with his daughter, but they wanted to make us look crazy.
Sure, right.
I mean, every year they go out of their way, absolutely, to create this image that they want us to have.
Well, every year there was a guy that used to show up at the Dallas March for Life, and he would stand on the sidelines, and he was a raging pro-abort. And he would have a little, you know, like these little trays that women used to wear when they sell cigarettes at bars and stuff. And they'd have a little tray with cigarettes in front of them. He had one of those that he had made, and he put shrimp on them. And he'd say, get your fetuses right here, red hot fetuses right here. And he'd hold up these things, and he'd have blood on them. And he was just a complete, utter whack job. Nobody ever showed him on television. Nobody ever showed him, not one time. But go over to the crowd where the pro-lifers are and just walk through there with the camera and say, no, don't shoot that one, don't shoot that one. No, yeah, look at this guy, let's get him.
I have literally been in Austin they march up to the Capitol, and so you have booths on the side. And I had my New Wave Feminist booth. I had hot pink hair at the time. I had my kids with me. Like, it was just a very positive, encouraging thing. There was a man next to me who had a political action committee of some kind that was pro-life work. So I watched this college kid come up and interview him. She immediately skips over me and goes to the little old lady in the wheelchair that's over here, because that's the image that we want. She can't show someone who has hot pink hair and piercings and tattoos, because that might actually look relatable to people on the other side.
I don't know how many people, hot pink hair.
You know what? You're just jealous that I have hair. Let's go ahead and get to that.
I keep telling y'all, God only made a few perfect heads. The rest of them you had to put hair on to cover up the flaws in them. So that's the deal on that.
Yeah.
All right, to show this American media bias, a recent poll by Robert Morris University, and they apparently do a lot of polling, say that 53.3% of participants say that Planned Parenthood should have its government funding stripped, and 31% opposed the funding. That poll got no play in the media, but a USA poll that found out that most people don't want to take away Planned Parenthood's funding was repeated nationwide over and over again. Now, the interesting thing here is, in the USA Today poll, they didn't provide an alternative. They said, do you think Planned Parenthood should have their funding taken away? And then, therefore, all these people would be denied health care. In this Robert Morris University poll, what they said was, would you like to see Planned Parenthood's funding taken away and given to another organization that would provide the health care that these women?
Yeah, it's just a matter of wording.
But that poll got no results, got no play.
Right.
But it was just an example of how biased the media is. And this man even made the point. He said basically they see Planned Parenthood as a public relations entity, and that's how they treat them. And so whatever they say is true. We've seen this over and over again, where we're seeing all these new stories coming out about the baby parts thing, so they'll talk about all the great, wondrous things that happen as a result of the baby parts. It's just...
I think we have to realize that at the end of the day, you can find statistics that prove anything. And I
Right.
think in the age of new media, all you have to do is Google something and you can find some study that says something that's on your side, and you watch people argue in comments and throwing out links of, well, my study said this and my study said that. And at the end of the day, what Planned Parenthood has done well in the past is they have anecdotal answers to stuff. They will tie a story like, look at this poor woman from this community and what she needed. And I think we kind of, as pro-lifers, it would be good to step up and say, because that is what counters statistics, is to say, look, I don't know what your numbers say about this. All I know is that there was this girl who felt coerced into an abortion. And, we're seeing that more and more women say at the end of the day that they felt pressure from either a family member or a spouse or whatever. And I know this one woman who experienced that, and this is her story, that really kind of tends to tug at people's heartstrings. And then we can find that common ground of, look, I might feel like a woman should still have a choice, but no woman has a choice when she's feeling coerced. Rather than saying 64% of women say that they've been coerced into an abortion, like put a face on some of these statistics, and I really do think it kind of drives the point home for people.
Well, we did that. We put together a report on the number of women that have been murdered. Renee and I didn't even include the ones, which is the great vast majority of them, who are beat up or put in nursing homes or and somehow otherwise assaulted. We didn't include those because this report would have been the size of this building. We just included about 80 of women that had actually been murdered because they refused to have abortions. Media just completely ignored it. And I remember one report they were attacking Life Dynamics, but one of the things that they said was, this is the group that put out this report where they claim that women are routinely beat up or killed because they have an abortion. They didn't say, this is the group that put out a report documenting through police records, arrest records, media reports, court records, whatever, 80 women who've been murdered because they wouldn't have. They didn't say that. They said we claimed it happened. We didn't claim it happened.
It happened.
We
the
found
irony is that it's full circle. You probably went and got some of their stories and statistics.
Well, some
and
of
court
it.
records.
Most of it was court records and police reports.
Well, and y'all did the same thing with the child predator website, which it's brilliant. I think it really drives home the point. I know that whenever someone tells me, well, we need abortion because of cases in rape, that's when I can say, look at this child who was raped and was taken, and abortion is what was used to keep victimizing her and cover up the assault. And when you can put that story of this little girl was only 8 years old and this happened to her and her sister for years and years and years, people can relate to it.
We had one, I think the girl was 6 or 7 that we reported on, and this guy started molesting her. She got pregnant when she was 11. He took her for an abortion. Nobody said anything then. I think he took her back at 13 or something like that, and then again at 15. And then when she kind of aged out, he went after the next sister, and then he went after the next one. And this went on for years and years. No report was ever made. I'm telling you something right now. If there were justice in the American judicial system, the people that didn't report that would be in prison right alongside the guy that did it, because they're every bit as guilty as he is. Every bit as guilty. And you often hear this said when you have a situation where a father or stepfather or male in the house is abusing a child.
And the mom knows, and people get upset about it.
And they say, well, put her in jail right along with them.
Exactly.
Well, why didn't that include the Planned Parenthood worker that also knew about it? Absolutely. And that not only did they know about it, they helped cover it up so that the abuse could continue for years afterward. We're also seeing a lot more of this evidence of the pro-aborts trying to cut off the debate on abortion. You remember how we talked either last show or the show before about how their new strategy is, because they can't beat us in a public forum or debate on abortion, it's just to cut off the whole debate and to take away the rights of free speech for pro-lifers. One of them now just absolutely admitted it. We've got this situation in California where they've passed this law requiring CPCs to post notices about abortion, about here's how you can go get an abortion if you want one. And it's obviously a violation of it. When people think about violating somebody's free speech rights, they think about you take somebody's free speech away from them, and that's correct. But free speech rights being violated also means you require them to say something that they don't want to say.
Right.
Well, that's the point here.
I was trying to think last night about other scenarios where you could ever have this. Like if I walked into a McDonald's and they were like, "Oh, we have to let you know Wendy's has fewer calories in their value meal or
Right,
whatever," and they're
right.
right down the street. Like
And they're cheaper.
We would think that's insane, and that goes against the free market. But they want to say, well, this is a woman in crisis, and there's something desperate happening. Okay, if I go into a bail bonds place, or whatever, or a fast cash type place, some scenario where obviously I'm dealing with something major. Would you tell me about your competition? Would you tell me about, you probably should go get some money management
Or maybe your uncle could loan you
advice
the
or
money.
something? Yeah, would they start giving you other advice about something else? Like, no, they're set up because they're trying to meet the needs of a particular demographic that they're reaching. We would never require this in the free market in any other place, but for some reason with crisis pregnancies, we're doing it.
Yeah. Anyway, in this thing in California, there's a woman named Amy Everett, and she runs an organization out there, abortion advocacy organizations. And she's talking about this. And she's saying, look, quote, they, meaning the pro-lifers, are still able to say everything they want to. We can't regulate free speech. If we could, we would, but we can't.
Exactly.
So she's admitting,
Right.
if we could take away their right to say what they want to say, we would do that.
Right.
But the law won't let us.
Yeah.
So that's their goal. I mean, she's just admitting what the others won't admit. We had another story. A girl was thrown out of the Phi Delta at Cornell College. She was thrown out of the sorority because she wrote an article, posted on social media, claiming that Planned Parenthood should be defunded. And her sorority sister said, no, that's wrong, so we're going to throw you out.
And all Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wrote a thing critical of that, saying all lives matter. And they said the term all lives matter is racist. Let's don't even go down that trail. How you explain that, how you justify that is unbelievable. We had another situation similar to that. Campus Reform magazine reports that an odd coalition, as they call it, of Jewish and pro-choice students is encouraging students to file bias instance reports claiming that Title IX violations have occurred in response to pro-life activities on campus. And they're saying that the use of the Holocaust, if you compare the abortion Holocaust to the Jewish Holocaust or Nazi Holocaust, you're anti-Semitic. That's
well, and it's okay for this Jewish student to wave a Pakistani flag outside of his window, and that's okay.
Right.
But we can't speak. It's
but they're saying that this creates a triggering effect.
It's that's just so bizarre to me. And I grew up before the whole anti-bullying movement, and so there was something where, like, I got picked on, for a number of years when I was a kid.
With pink hair, I imagine you did.
I did. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of makes you tougher. There's something that actually makes you able to stand things. But now we have these kids who and I understand needing to protect the vulnerable, but at the same time, like, you are in college. You are supposed to be understanding the whole world around you and conflicting ideas. And I don't know what we are going to do with all these snowflakes as soon as they graduate that are too sensitive for anything. Like, how are they going to operate in the real world when words hurt them? And I think it's so bizarre that your idea offends me and it's triggered me. Go live in a padded room somewhere, homie. Like, you should not exist with the rest of us.
Here's the fact. They're setting themselves up for failure because they're not always going to be on campus cupcake,
Right,
like what they
right.
want. The minute they get out and they get a job in the real world, they're going to find a lot of things.
They care about their feelings.
Nobody's going to care about their feelings. They're going to find a lot of things that are offensive, right?
Mm-hmm. We're just going to have a whole generation of people who are like in, mental institutions because
they
have meltdowns their first week
They
on
go to
the
work
job.
at some company where things happen that they're offended by, and they go to their boss and says, "Hey, that guy said something that offends me." Really? Is that project finished that I gave you to, Are we going to now see these people in a corner somewhere, sitting on their rear ends crying?
This is what's
Possibly.
happened. We have gotten away from any type of personal responsibility as a
Right.
nation. So now it's not that I should be responsible for my feelings or my emotions or my reactions to something. It's you shouldn't say that. And our whole activism is like other people putting their stuff on us rather than people just standing up for themselves and having a little bit thicker skin and being
Right.
personally responsible and saying, I'm not going to choose to live my life this way, but you can't even I'm going to shut you down. And I think that's what we're seeing with the pro-choice movement especially, is this complete denial. And it's so funny that they're the ones known for like sex education and comprehensive, like nothing about what they do is comprehensive. It's
Right.
we're not going to let you see a sonogram. We're not going to tell you your other options because it might hurt your delicate little feelings. So you can't know that there's a chance that you could actually raise this baby, because we're not going to call it that. Like, it's just this clump of cells. Don't look down, because then you might actually know it's a baby. But then you're upset when people have reactions later on because they were lied to. I mean, wholly by the whole industry, they were lied to and denied information, yet you call yourselves the comprehensive alternative. Give me a break. You can't have it both ways.
Right. Yes, they do, because the media lets them get away with it. And we're totally out of time, but I wanted to get this one last thing, is I couldn't let it go. An abortionist named Lisa Harris, Planned Parenthood in Michigan, is trying to appear reasonable. And she says we should agree with some pro-lifers on some levels. Quote, ignoring the fetus is a luxury of abortion advocates and activists. You can't ignore the fetus, right? Listen to this now, ready? Are you ready for this? You can't ignore the fetus because the fetus is the marker of how good a job you did, right? If you don't account for all the parts and you don't look carefully, you may be setting up someone for an infection or a hemorrhage or whatever. The fetus matters, clinically to us. And then she says, most women that come to her for an abortion, quote, know they are killing a child. They know that. And of course, we've had these conversations with them over the phone here. So let's just give them, the pro-lifers, that they're true. It's violence, it's a person, it's killing. Let's just give them all that. And then the more compelling question is, why is this the most important thing I can do with my life? I don't think it needs to be about correcting facts. I think it needs to be about moving the conversation to a different place. Now, this woman is obviously whacked out. This is a practicing abortionist in Michigan. We've talked about her on Life Talk in the past, right? Here's a report that she did back in 2008. Called Second Trimester Abortion Provision, Breaking the Silence and Changing the Discourse. Do you remember what this was about?
I do.
What was it about?
She was pregnant at the same time she was aborting this child, and she put the pieces of the baby together to see what her baby looked like and how
she was doing an 18-week abortion while she was 18 weeks pregnant.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And she says in this report that she put the baby back together so she could see what her baby looked like. Mm-hmm. This woman is sick. This woman needs to be in a mental institution. I don't care what anybody says. This woman has got major problems.
I think her baby kicked the same time she was killing that other baby.
Yeah. She says in this article that while she was killing this baby, her baby kicked in her womb. And when it was over, she put it back together to see what it looked like. Again, don't tell me that these are simply people, good, well-intentioned people with whom we have a disagreement. They're not. These people are pathologically evil.
She's psychopathic. And I mean, I think that's the difference. And in a really sick and morbid way, it should give us hope for the woman who couldn't look at her fetus, because there's some sliver of humanity left in her that she couldn't look at it, versus this woman who can clearly look at it, say it's a human being, and say, let's move the dialogue to the fact that we're okay with killing humans sometimes.
She not only says it's human, she says it's a person. Let's give that to them. The unborn child is a person.
And let's just talk why it's okay to kill some people.
Yeah, it's killing, it's a person, it's violence. She's saying all that. And she should know. She's the one doing it, right? Mm-hmm. But again, if you read through this article, and you can get it online, again, it's called Second Trimester Abortion Provision, Breaking the Silence and Changing the Discourse by Lisa H. Harris, University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. You read this thing and you know this is a woman whose soul is so seared and so vacant, and she is so totally detached from reality. She needs counseling.
Could you imagine the girls who are on her table? She has no value for human life. If she can say, yeah, it's killing and I'm okay with it, then what do you think she views you as? Right. No human life. I wouldn't let like Charles Manson operate on me, and that's right. Basically what you're allowing to have happen here. Yeah, right. It's horrifying. It is horrifying, but it just shows the kind of nature of the battle that we're in, and people need to keep that in mind as they sometimes pro-lifers, I think, are a little bit naive. They wanted to deceive themselves into believing that yes, our enemy. And I've had them call me and say, look, my sister is pro-abortion, pro-choice, and so
you know, but she's a good person. Well, if you lived in Nazi Germany and you said this guy gets up every morning and goes to work at a death camp and oversees the execution of innocent human beings and then comes back at night and plays pitch out in the front yard with his kid, would you say, well, I don't like what he's doing, but he's a good human. He's a good, decent person. He's really a good family man and a good guy. Would you say that?
That's called separating work from home.
Right, yeah, that's right. Right. You can compartmentalize all you want to, but you can't deny the fact.
Well, and I think we have to acknowledge that the sister who's pro-choice is the one who, maybe she doesn't work at the camp and see the dead bodies, but she walks past it every day and she sees the smoke going up and she chooses to ignore the fact that murder is happening, death is happening. And that's what our generation is right now. They're wholly asleep to the fact that they aren't watching the arm go down the drain. They aren't looking at it. They aren't seeing it. And they do have to realize what's actually happening.
But the good news about all this is, again, we keep talking about this, we are winning. All the evidence is winning. And the thing about it is, too, when you read all of these articles and you read all what these people like the Lisa Harrises of the world are saying, they're saying that we're winning. They're admitting that we're winning the battle. And they're trying to change the paradigms now here so that you can, okay, we can't deny, that's what she's saying. We can't deny that it's a living human being, it's a person, that this is violence that we're inflicting on this person and that we're killing them. We can't deny that. So what they're basically doing is we're trying to make that irrelevant. That's not relevant. That's exactly what she's saying here. We've got to change the discourse here because we can't deny what the pro-lifers are arguing. We cannot deny it. And again, this is something I talk about in Siege, about how that's affecting our country and how that's going to affect the pro-life movement from here on out. But they are trying to change the battleground upon which this thing is fought because they can't win on the other one, and they know they can't. But anyway, great show, guys. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time. Well, that's all the time we have for now. For daily news updates, go to prolifeamerica.com. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win because winning is how this killing is going to stop.